Welcome to the 1,000 Nights and 1 Night. Now, when it was the 397th night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that when the youth pointed to Abu Zar and said, This man shall answer for me and be my bail, Omar, Allah accepted of him, said, O Abu Zar, dost thou hear these words, and wilt thou be surety to me for the return of this youth? He answered, Yes, O commander of the faithful, I will be surety for him 3 days. So the caliph accepted his guarantee and let the young man go. Now when the appointed time passed and the days of grace were nearly at an end, yet the youth came not, the caliph took seat in his council with his companions, surrounding him like the constellations above the moon. Abu Zar and the plaintiffs being also present, and the avenger said, Where is the defendant, O Abu Zar, and how shall he return, having once fled? But we will not stir from our places till thou bring him to us, that we may take of him our blood revenge. Replied Abu Zar, By the truth of the all-wise king, if the 3 days of grace expire and the young man return not, I will fulfill my warranty and surrender my person to Imnan. And added, Omar, whom Allah accept, By the Lord, if the young man appear not, I will assuredly execute on Abu Zar that which is prescribed by the law of al-Islam. Thereupon the eyes of the bystanders ran over with tears. Those who looked on groaned aloud, and great was the clamor. Then the chiefs of the companions urged the plaintiffs to accept the blood-wit and deserve the thanks of the folk, but they both refused, and would not accept nothing save the talion. However, as the folk were swaying to and fro like waves and loudly bemoaning Abu Zar, behold, up came the young Badwi, and standing before the imam, saluted him right courteously with sweat-beaded face and shining with a crescent grace, and said to him, I have given the lad in charge to his mother's brothers, and have made them acquainted with all that pertaineth to his affairs, and let them into the secret of his moneys, after which I braved the heats of noon, and have kept my word as a freeborn man. Thereupon the folk marveled, seeing his good faith and loyalty, and his offering himself to death, and so stout a heart, and one said to him, How noble a youth art thou, and how loyal to thy word of honour and thy devoir. Rejoined he, Are ye not convinced that when death presented itself, none can escape from it? And indeed, I have kept my word, that it be not said, Good faith is gone from among mankind. Said Abu Zar, By Allah, O commander of the faithful, I became warrant for this young man without knowing to what tribe he belonged, nor had I seen him before that day. But when he turned away from all who were present, and singled me out, and saying, This man shall answer for me and be my bail, I thought it was not right to refuse him, and generosity forbade to disappoint his desire, there being no harm in compliance therewith, that it be not bruited abroad. Benevolence is gone from among mankind. Then said the 2 young men, O commander of the faithful, we forgive this youth our father's blood, seeing that he has changed desolation into cheerfulness, that it be not said, humanity is gone from among mankind. So the caliph rejoiced in the acquittance of the youth, and his truth and good faith. Moreover, he magnified the generosity of Abu Zar, extolling it over all his companions, and approved the resolve of the 2 young men for its benevolence, giving them praise with thanks, and applying to their case the saying of the poet, Who doth kindness to men shall be paid again, ne'er is kindness lost between God and man. Then he offered to pay them from the treasury the blood-wit for their father, but they refused, saying, We forgave him only of our desire unto Allah, the bountiful, the exalted, and he who is intentioned followed not his benefits with reproach or with mischief. And amongst the tales they relate is that of the Caliph al-Mamun and the pyramids of Egypt. It is told that the Caliph al-Mamun, son of Harun al-Rashid, when he entered the god-guarded city of Cairo, was minded to pull down the pyramids, that he might take what was therein. But when he went about to do this, he could not succeed, albeit his best was done. He expended a mint of money in the attempt. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now, when it was the 398th night, she said, "It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that Al-Mamun, attempting to pull down the pyramids, expending his mint of money, but succeeded only in opening up a small tunnel in one of them, wherein it is said he found treasure to the exact amount of the monies he had spent in the works, neither more nor less. Whereat he marveled, and taking what he found there, desisted from his determination. Now the pyramids are three, and they are the wonders of the world, nor is there on the face of the earth aught like them for height and fashion and mysteries. For they are built of huge rocks, and the builders proceeded by piercing one block of stone, and setting thereon upright rods of iron, after which they pierced a second block of stone, and lowered it upon the first. Then they poured melted lead upon the clamps, and set the blocks in geometrical order till the building was complete. Now the height of each pyramid was 100 cubits of the normal measure of the day, and it had 4 faces, each 300 cubits long from the base, and thence battering upwards to a point. The ancients say that in the western pyramid are 30 chambers of party-colored syenite, full of precious gems and treasures galore, rare images and utensils, costly weapons which are anointed with ergomantic unguents, so that they may not rest till the day of resurrection. Therein also are vessels of glass, which bent and break not, containing various kinds of compound drugs and sympathetic waters. In the second pyramid are the records of the priests, written on tables of syenite, to each priest his tablet, whereon are engraved the wonders of his craft and his feats. And on the walls are human figures like idols, working with their hands at all manners of mechanisms, and seated on step thrones. Moreover, to each pyramid there is a guardian treasurer, who keepeth watch over it, and wardeth it to all eternity against the ravages of time and the shifts of events. And indeed, the marvels of these pyramids astound all who have sight and insight. Many are the poems that describe them. Thou shalt thereby profit no small matter, and among the rest quote one of them. If kings would see their high emprise preserved, 'twill be by tongues of monuments they laid. Seest not the pyramids? These too endure, despite what change time and chance have made. And quoth another, Look on the pyramids, and hear the twain recount their annals of the long gone past. Could they but speak, high marvels had they told of what time did a man from first to last. And quoth a third, My friend, I prithee tell me, neath the sky is aught with Egypt's pyramid can compare? Buildings which frighten time, all be what dwells on back of earth in fear of time must fare. If on their marvels rest my sight no more, yet these I ever shall in memory bear. And quoth the fourth, Where is the man who built the pyramids? What was his tribe? What day, and where is his tomb? The monuments survive the men who built, a while till overthrown by touch of doom. And men also tell the tale of the thief and the merchant. There was once a thief who repented to Almighty Allah with sincere penitence. So he opened himself a shop for the sale of stuffs, where he continued to do trade for a while. It so chanced one day that he locked his shop and went home, and in night came to the bazaar an awful thief disguised in the habit of a merchant, and pulling out keys from his sleeves, said to the watchman of the market, Light me this wax candle. The watchman took the taper and went to light it. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now, when it was the 399th night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that the watchman took the taper and went to light it, whilst the thief opened the shop and lit another candle he had with him. When the watchman came back, he found him seated in the shop, account books in hand, and reckoning with his fingers. Nor did he cease to do thus till point of day, when he said to the man, "Fetch me a camel driver and his camel to carry some goods for me." So the man fetched him a camel, and the thief took 4 bales of stuffs and gave them to the cameleer, who loaded them on his beast. Then he gave the watchman 2 dirhams and went away, the camel driver leaving the watchman, believing him to be the owner of the shop. Now, when the morning dawned and day broke, the merchant came, and the watchman began greeting him with blessings because of the 2 dirhams. But the shop owner wondered at his words, as one not knowing what he meant. When he opened his shop, he saw the droppings of the wax and the account book laying on the floor, and looking round, he found 4 bales of stuff missing. So he asked the watchman what had happened, and he told him what had passed in the night and what had been said to the cameleer, whereupon the merchant bade him fetch the man and asked him, "Whither didst thou carry the stuffs this morning?" Answered the driver, "To such a landing place, and I stowed them on board such a vessel." Said the merchant, "Come with me thither." So the camel driver carried him to the landing place and said to him, "This be the bark, and this be her owner." Quoth the merchant to the seaman, "Whither dost thou carry the merchant and the stuff?" Answered the boatman, "To such a place," where he fetched a camel driver, and setting the bales on the camel went his way. "I know not whither." "Fetch me the cameleer who carried the goods," said the merchant. So he fetched him the merchant and said to him, "Whither dost thou carry the bales of stuffs from this ship?" "To such a khan," answered he. And the merchant rejoined, "Come thither with me, and show me." So the camel man went with him to a place far distant from the shore, and showed him the khan where he set down the stuffs, and at the same time the false merchant's magazines, which he opened and found therein his 4 bales bound up as if they had been packed. The thief had laid his cloak over them, so the merchant took the cloak as well as the bales and delivered them to the camel driver, who laid them on his camel, after which he locked the magazine and went away with the cameleer. On the way, behold, he was confronted by the thief, who followed him till he had shipped the bales, when he said to him, "O my brother, Allah have thee in his holy keeping. Thou hast indeed recovered thy goods, and naught of them is lost. So give me back my cloak." The merchant laughed, and giving him back his cloak, let him go unhindered, whereupon both went their ways. And they tell a tale of Masrur the eunuch and Ibn al-Karibi. The commander of the faithful, Harun al-Rashid, was exceedingly restless one night. So he said to his vizier Jafar, "I am sleepless tonight, and my breast is straitened, and I know not what to do." Now his castrato, Masrur, was standing before him, and he laughed. Whereupon the caliph said, "At whom laughest thou? Is it to make mock of me, or hath madness seized thee?" Answered Masrur, "Nay, by Allah, O commander of the faithful." And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. Now, when it was the 400th night, she said, "It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that Harun al-Rashid said to Masrur the sorter, 'Dost thou laugh to make mock of me, or hath madness seized thee?' Answered Masrur, 'Nay, by Allah, O commander of the faithful, I swear, by the kinship of the Prince of Apostles, I did it not of free will, but I went out yesterday to walk within sight of the palace, and coming to the bank of the Tigris, saw there the folk collected. So I stopped and found a man, Ibn al-Karibi, who was making them laugh. But just now I recalled what he said, and laughter got the better of me, and I crave pardon of thee, O commander of the faithful." Quoth the caliph, "Bring him to me forthright." So Masrur repaired in all haste to Ibn al-Karibi, and said to him, "Answer the summon of the commander of the faithful." Whereto he replied, "I hear, and I obey. But on condition," added Masrur, "that if he give thee aught, thou shalt have a quarter, and the rest shall be mine." Replied the droll, "Nay, thou shalt have half, and I half." Rejoined Masrur, "Not so. I will have 3/4. Lastly, said Ibn al-Karibi, Thou shalt have 2/3, and I the other third. To which Masrur agreed, after much higgling and haggling, and they returned to the palace together. Now, when Ibn al-Karibi came to the caliph's presence, he saluted him as men greet the caliphate, and stood before him. Whereupon said al-Rashid to him, If thou do not make me laugh, I will give thee 3 blows with this bag. Quoth Ibn al-Karibi in his mind, and a small matter were blows with that bag, seeing that beating with whips hurteth me not. For he thought the bag was empty. Then he began to deal out his drolleries, such as would make the dismalest Jimmy guffaw, and gave vent to all manner of buffooneries. But the caliph laughed not, neither smiled. Whereupon Ibn al-Karibi marveled and was chagrined and affrighted. Then said the commander of the faithful, Now thou hast earned the beating, and gave him a blow with the bag, wherein were 4 pebbles, each 2 rotels in weight. The blow fell on his neck, and he gave a great cry. Then calling to mind his compact with Masrur, said, Pardon, O commander of the faithful, here are 2 words for me. Quoth the caliph, Say on. And quoth Ibn al-Karibi, Masrur made it a condition with me that I make a covenant with him that whatsoever largesse might come to me of the bounties of the commander of the faithful, 1/3 thereof should be mine, and the rest his. Nor did he agree to leave me so much as 1/3, save after much higgling and haggling. Now thou hast bestowed on me nothing but beating. I have had my share, and here standeth he, ready to receive his portion. So pay him the 2 blows. Now when the caliph heard this, he laughed, until he fell on his back. Then calling Masrur, he gave him a blow, whereat he cried out and said, O commander of the faithful, the 1/3 suffices me. Give him the 2/3. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased her permitted say. Now, when it was the 401st night, she said, It hath reached me, O auspicious king, that Masrur cried out, O commander of the faithful, the 1/3 suffices me. Give him the 2/3. So the caliph laughed at them, and ordered them 1,000 dinars each, and they went away, rejoicing at the largesse. And of the tales they tell is one of the devotee prince. The commander of the faithful, Harun al-Rashid, had a son who from time to time attained the age of 16, renounced the world, and walked in the way of ascetics and devotees. He was wont to go out to the graveyards and say, Ye once ruled the world, but thou saved you not from death, and now ye are come to your sepulchres. Would heaven I knew what ye said, and what is said to you. And he wept as one weepeth who is troubled with fear and apprehension. And he repeateth the words of the poet, Affright me funerals at every time, and wailing women grieve me to the soul. Now, it chanced one day, as he sat among the tombs, according to his custom, his father passed by in all his state, surrounded by his wazirs and lords of the realm, and his officers of his household, who, seeing the caliph's son was in a gown of woolen stuff on his body, and a twist of wool on his head by way of turban, said to one another, Verily, this youth dishonoureth the commander of the faithful among the kings, but if he reproved him, he would leave his present way of life. The caliph heard these words, so quoth he to his son, O my dear child, of a truth, thou disgracest me by thy present way of life. The young man looked at him and made no reply. Then he beckoned to a bird perched on the battlements of the palace, and said to it, O thou bird, I conjure thee by him who created thee, alight upon my hand. Whereupon straightway it swooped down and perched on his finger. Then quoth he, Return to thy place. And it did so. Presently he said, Alight on the hand of the commander of the faithful. But it refused there to perch, and he cried to his father, If it is thou that disgracest me among the holy ones by the love of the world, and now I am resolved to part from thee, never to return to thee, save in the world to come. Then he went down to Basra, where he took to working with those who wrought in clay, receiving as his day's hire but a dirham and a dank. And when the dank he fed himself and gave alms of the dirham, quoth Abu Amir of Basra. There fell down a wall in my house, so I went forth to the station of the artisans to find a man who could repair it for me. But my eyes fell on a handsome youth of radiant countenance. So I saluted him and asked him, O my friend, dost thou seek work? Yes, answered he. And I said, Come with me and build a wall. He replied, On certain condition I will make with thee. Quoth I, And what are they, O my friend? And quoth he, My wage must be a dirham and a danik. And again, when the muezzin called to prayer, thou shalt let me go pray with the congregation. It is well, answered I, and carried him to my place, where he fell to work such work as I never saw the like of. Presently I named to him the morning meal, and he said, No, and I knew that he was fasting. When he heard the call to prayer, he said to me, Thou knowest the condition. Yes, answered I. So he loosed his girdle, and applying himself to the lesser ablution, made it after a fashion, than which I never saw fairer. Then he went to the mosque, and prayed with the congregation, and returned to his work. He did the same upon the call to mid-afternoon prayer, and when I saw him fall to his work again thereafter, I said to him, O my friend, verily the hours of labor are over. A workman's day is but till the time of afternoon prayer. But he replied, Praise to the Lord, my service is till the night. And he ceased not work till nightfall, when I gave him 2 dirhams, whereupon he asked, What is this? And I answered, By Allah, this is but part of thy wage, because of thy diligence in my service. But he threw them back at me again, saying, I will have no more than what was agreed upon between the twain. I urged him to take them, but he would not be prevailed upon. So I gave him the dirham and the danik, and he went away. And when morning dawned, I went to the station, but found him not. So I inquired for him, and was told, He come thither only on Sabbaths. According, when Saturday came, I betook me to the market, and finding him there, said, Bismillah, do me the favor to come and work for me. Said he, Upon the conditions thou wottest. And I answered, Yes. Then carrying him to my house, I stood to watch him, where he could not see me, and he took a handful of puddled clay, and laid it on the wall. Then behold, the stones ranged themselves one upon the other, and I said, On this wise are Allah's holy ones. He worked out his day, and did even more than before, and when it was night, I gave him his hire, and he took it, and walked away. Now, when the 3rd Saturday came round, I went to the place of standing, but found him not. So I asked after him, and they told me, He is sick, and lying in the shanty of such a woman. Now this was an old woman, renowned for piety, who had a hovel of reeds in the burial ground. So I fared thither, and found him stretched on the floor, which was bare, and a brick for a pillow, and his face beaming like the new moon with light. I saluted him, and he returned my salam, and I sat down at his head, weeping over this fair young years, and absence from his home, and submission to the will of his Lord. Then I said to him, Hast thou any need? Yes, answered he. And I said, What is it? He replied, Come hither tomorrow in the forenoon, and thou wilt find me dead. Wash me, and dig my grave, and tell none thereof, but shroud me in this my gown. After thou hast unsewn it, and taken out what thou shalt find in the bosom pocket, which keep with thee. Then, when thou hast prayed over me, and laid me in the dust, go to Baghdad, and watch for the Caliph Harun al-Rashid, till he come forth. And when do thou give him that which thou shalt find in the breast of my gown, and bear him salutation. Then he ejaculated the profession of the faith, and glorified his God in the most eloquent of words, reciting these couplets. Carry the trust of him whom death awaits to al-Rashid, and God reward thy care. And say, An exile who desired thy sight, long loving from afar, sends greetings fair. Nor hate, nor irk, no, him from thee withdraw, kissing thy right to heaven brought him near. But what estranged his soul, O sire, from thee is that thy worldly joys it would not share. Then he betook himself to prayer, asking pardon of Allah. And Shahrazad perceived the dawn of the day, and ceased to say her permitted say. And so do I cease my telling of these tales for the day, till it be morrow.